thanks for coming, all of you. Betty, you too. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Thatcher. Thank you for coming. We're breaking the meeting into two sections tonight. The first section is a follow-on to the Supertown meeting, which is to take place on June 8th. I think, is that correct? June 8th?
Well, assuming that's the verbal commitment.
That's the plan today. And as a final review for the general public, everybody, I believe, was invited to this meeting in the surrounding towns also.
All three towns, it was noticed in
Right.
the Neshoba Publishing and
Right.
online.
What we'll do is we'll have a quick review of that, which is an obligation by the law, which is what Mass Development is conforming to, and then we'll move into the safety or the private roads discussion. And what I'm going to ask you to do is two things. I'm going to hand around a sheet, and I'd like you to indicate your name and your email if you want to. And we're going to use this for basically who's attending meetings as an official record. And the other is to put it on our email list to make sure it's accurate. The other thing is we're recording this session. So what we'll do is when it's time for question and answer, we'll just ask you to stand. We'll give you a microphone, just identify yourself, and ask the question that you want to ask. Okay, for the record. All right, and that's about it. We've got Ed here, who's out of the project manager in the real estate. Everybody knows Ed. Let's give a hand for Ed. Thank you, Ed. I like his hairstyle.
Simple. Streamlined.
Anyway, we turn it over to Ed for the review.
Thanks, Tom. Does anyone here still need a copy of the latest zoning changes? This hasn't changed since April 10. Okay. Actually, Eric, can you? Yeah. I didn't totally see something, so they're all.
Oh,
No, it's okay. One set. So here's the change one. Change two.
You understand?
You know what, I'll donate a pen to the... I have a pen. Well, we'll need a pen to circulate with that.
All right.
oh, maybe.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I think this is the fourth time that we've presented the zoning changes to the Devens community, so I appreciate your patience with us and your willingness to come back for more. We have 4 zoning changes in the mix still, same ones that we've been talking about all along. There's been some changes along the way, and that's what I'm going to focus on tonight is what's new in these zoning changes, what's changed since basically back to the November-December timeframe. We presented this exact same language to the Joint Board of Selectmen a couple weeks ago, was that, Tom? A month ago?
A month ago, yeah.
A month ago or so. And got their go-ahead to schedule a Supertown meeting. However, since the process has dragged out a bit, we are required to hold a public hearing within 30 days of delivering the draft warrant language to the boards of selectmen. That clock had expired, so we're all lucky enough to be here tonight for me to reset the clock with one final hearing. I'll jump into the 4 changes. Feel free to stop me midstream if you want. Change 1 would allow for senior residential uses in the Shirley Village Growth District. This is the district behind the Air Shirley Middle School on the other side of the river. Specifically, we're talking about up to 120 units of housing there. What's changed since November? Basically, the feedback at the public hearings that we got back dating to the summer and then the fall was that in the town of Shirley, there's a strong preference for an affordable component to this.
She'll take care of it for us.
There was a strong preference for a mandatory affordable component to the senior housing. So we've added that into the proposed zoning. We've required a minimum of 25% of any senior residential units within the Shirley Village Growth District shall be deed restricted so that they're affordable to households earning no more than 80% of area median income, which is how the state defines, that's the top of the threshold for what they call low-income households. Just for FYI, area median income out here is, I believe, $90-something thousand for an average, for a four-person household. So when we're talking 80% median income, we're talking somewhere in the $80,000 type income range for a household of four. So it's considerable buying power. We've also, there's other issues that have come up with this particular change, have to do with the Devens housing cap. As we all know, there's a limit of 282 housing units at Devens. To date, we're at 140 units. The Grant Road project, which is moving forward, will build out another 124 units. That's going to get us pretty close to build out, I think, 264 units. We would not have room under the cap to build 120 units of senior housing or even 60 units of senior housing. So we're asking for a waiver of the cap, but we're limiting it specifically to the Shirley Village Growth parcel and specifically to senior residential uses age 62 and up. So you will not see this additional capacity under the cap coming back to provide for more houses at Grant Road or anywhere at Devens. It's limited to Shirley Village Growth. Other key points. I think that's basically it in a nutshell. Are there any questions about this one? Yes.
If you didn't get it through, would you consider shifting? Oh, I'm sorry. Heather Knowles. If you didn't get it through, would you consider shifting some of your existing housing over to there, or is it already committed under the Grant Road?
We have 124 units committed under Grant Road.
Okay.
That leaves us about 18 units of housing left under the cap at the end of the day.
Wouldn't be worth it.
Well, it might be, but we can't shift it there without a zoning change because no housing is allowed at Shirley Village Grove at all.
But cap-wise, and they have to pass together, right? You're going to up the cap and change the zoning.
It's part of the same question, yes, because it's specifically to provide for that senior housing there. Did I see another question?
Yes, I just, Tim Hatch from Shirley. I was just wondering how the 60 units was arrived at. Oh, actually, let me back up a little. On February 25th of 2014, a meeting held between the town administrator, the Economic Development Commission, one member of the Board of Selectmen, and someone from Mass Development, I don't know who it was, arrived at a figure of 60 units on 5 acres, and I was just wondering what has transpired since that time, a little over a year ago, that made it jump up to 120 units.
I think at that time we had talked to the development community about what would constitute a feasible project, like how large does a project need to be to make sense for them to do. I think their initial feedback was 60 units. We have plenty of land there. It seems like there's demand for more than 60 units of senior housing. So we said let's not limit ourselves to one project. I'm sure I was at that meeting, but I don't recall that it was any sort of a binding agreement that we made between anybody there. I think that was probably just initial discussions about what we might do.
Okay, just as a follow-up, back in December, there was advertising taken out for openings for affordable housing for seniors in Littleton and Shirley. Just recently, Wednesday, April 15th, the edition of the Lowell Sun, there was advertisement placed by the Air Housing Authority, taking applicants for people 60 years of age and older. If there is such a demand for units, so there was back then, why are these people spending their money on advertising?
We've called around to all the facilities in the three-town region and beyond, uniformly, with maybe one exception, which was in the town of Leominster.
Leominster, yes.
They're all full with wait lists. I don't know what the advertisements are for. Did you call them to ask?
No, I just, since starting in November thereabouts, my interest in this project was triggered and I
Right.
started to look through.
Do you have concerns in general with senior housing?
No, I don't. In fact, actually, I was just at the town meeting Tuesday night, and I voted in favor of a $2,100 increase for
There
the
you go.
senior citizen director, senior council
Okay.
meeting director to increase the hours.
All right.
And I'd like you to ask the same people on the stage who were the town officials, how they voted on that increase. And I also served on the Council on Aging 35 years ago
Okay.
in the town of Shirley.
35, okay. I don't know, you've been at all the hearings and I can't quite, I don't know, I'm not sure where you're coming from. I'd like to answer your questions directly instead of,
Well, it's simple. Where I'm coming from is that the narrative was that there was this need.
there is a
I'm
need. We
trying to
have,
figure out where the need is, and the narrative also was that the Shirley officials approached Mass Development when actually it was Mass Development who inquired about senior housing.
this goes back way before 2014. It goes back
Well,
to
if you check
2006.
The selectmen's minutes from a meeting.
It doesn't all happen in selectmen's meetings.
They all signed off on it, that Mass Development came in and inquired, and I'm trying to figure out where the genesis of
Maybe
this is.
Jackie could say a word because she's been involved with this from the beginning.
Hi, Jackie Asalonis, I'm chairman of the Shirley Economic Development Committee. Tim, just to clarify, we went to Mass Development and asked them if they could consider certain uses for this property because it so closely abuts our town offices, library, police department, and that sort of thing. And then Mass Development came to us and said, well, what would you think about senior housing? And we thought that that would be a good mix for what we'd like to see there, which is a combination of some sort of housing and retail, which would make a little community in that area is what we were hoping. So that's how the project began. With regard to why housing authorities might be advertising for elderly is if their waiting lists get a little short, or maybe even annually, I'm not sure, they will advertise so that they can let people know that they do have housing and that they can go on the list. That's my best knowledge about that process, if that helps you.
We can send you the latest information that we've collected, and you could feel free to verify it yourself about the waiting lists at each of those projects.
If there's going to be affordable, Betty Barbadoro from Devens, if there's going to be an affordable component, aren't they forced to advertise that and get all the possibilities out there? That's maybe answers your question, why there's need to advertise.
Thatcher's.
Let me add just a couple comments on this and speak somewhat generally, because I'm just coming in new to the specifics of this issue. But there's a couple sort of demographics that are going on that's creating general demand. So one is the baby boomers. Look at the age of the baby boomers. They're at that, let's call it, the 65-year-old age is probably, I'm not going to do the math in my head, but somewhere in the midpoint of where all the baby boomers are. And so what's happening is that whole demographic group is moving out of the homes that they raised a family in, the 4 bedrooms, big acres, all of that. And as they're aging, they're downsizing. They're looking for options. And so some of them have the means to go wherever they want, and others don't, and looking to downsize and find affordable care in that. The other component of that is the health component of it. And what is hot in the marketplace in general, and I saw it up in my area up in Amesbury and such, what people are looking to do when they're downsizing and they're empty nesters, they want to move into a community where they have others around them of the same demographic group and activities. But as they age and their medical needs grow, they want to be in that community in which the services that they need are also there, and that they don't have to keep moving in order to get increasing levels of medical care. And so a lot more and more developments for seniors are catered to that group. And so there is a general demand for these type of homes. And what it does is, one, it's going to open up other homes, the larger homes, for families. Growing families are going to come in and take over those other homes. So it's sort of that process in that. So and then in the public housing arena, I think it was answered in that there are some requirements to advertise, and what the state is trying to be better at. And I was appointed by the governor some time ago on a task force looking at the public housing, senior housing and such. They're trying to get better at matching demand with space, because in some communities they're full up, in other communities they still do have some capacity. They're trying to unify the databases and the information so that people have, they can be on a waiting list in multiple communities waiting to get into, those that are eligible to get into that type of home. So I think part of what you see going on is it's sort of the marketplace where there is some surplus, and other places where there are no openings. The state's pushing the housing authorities to do a better job of getting that word out and getting people into those spaces. So I think that's what you're seeing are the dynamics that are behind what's, the emphasis behind a project like this. So I hope that helps.
Well, yes. I would just like to see the demand exist, not within the state, but within the general area. And if it's not there, let's not have the narrative be that it is. And if it's going to be filled with people from wherever, then that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, and again, I don't know the specific numbers here locally. What I will say to that is that baby boom generation, that the bubble's moving up. So if the folks who invest in these type of projects, they don't just look at what's the demand today. They're looking at what's the demand over the next several years, because that's how they get the return on that investment. And there is no doubt that the baby boom bubble, it's aging. I mean, we're all aging, right? Every day I get a day older. But the fact is that the baby boomers, that large bubble, is in that time frame where they're looking for these type of housing opportunities.
Thank you.
Any more questions on change 1? No? Proposed change number 2 is fairly straightforward. It's also involved with the Shirley Village Growth 1 district. Under this change, we would allow for healthcare uses within the district. This is a use category that the town of Shirley and Mass Development thought would be generally compatible with age-restricted senior residential. We have made some modifications to the definition of healthcare uses for this particular parcel, however. As it's defined in the Devens bylaws in general, healthcare uses include things like hospitals, emergency clinics, sort of large-scale healthcare uses. We heard some concern from the town of Air about potential impacts on the hospital's business model over there. So in response, we have added a footnote basically to the use table, which specifically deletes hospitals, immediate care facilities, and clinics from the list of allowable healthcare uses. It's much more focused on basically doctors' offices at this point, so small-scale uses, which we think would serve the immediate community. Comments?
Yes. Since this is in Shirley, and the first two questions are Shirley, and I'm probably one of 2 people here from Shirley, and probably the only one who's not appointed or elected. I noticed there's as we've been reading just about every day, there's an opiate crisis in the country.
Yes.
And we just read on the front page of the Fitchburg paper this morning that there may be a methadone clinic coming into Leominster. Understanding that any health care business that comes to this property can't really necessarily compete with the Neshoba Community Medical Center or whatever it's known as. It seems like one of the only things that cannot be ruled out is the demand for an opiate substance abuse center. And since there's only one facility in Middlesex County, and that's in Tewksbury, and they are at capacity, and Shirley is in Middlesex County, what is the likelihood of a facility like this locating in Shirley?
Surely.
We seem to have enough, I don't mean to have compassion fatigue, but we seem to have enough between the prisons in Shirley and Devens.
Right.
We have enough situations where people present a harm to themselves or others as it is. And with the existing healthcare zoning on the main part of Devens, I'm kind of curious why Shirley has to be added to this, and what can we expect to go there? I don't see it being healthcare offices, not in competition with the hospital and air.
It would be small-scale healthcare uses. Nothing, hospitals are specifically not allowed. Emergency clinics are not allowed. We're talking about an orthodontist opening up a shop there. Dentists, doctors, specialists, that sort of thing. The small-scale sort of use that you might see along Route 110 in Harvard, that's what we're looking for. You know, frankly, what we've been trying to do in Shirley for years now is to try to jumpstart some activity on that end of Front Street, and looking at uses that have some viability and some reality behind them. Healthcare uses is one of the uses that was identified, along with senior housing, recreation. There's the potential for some retail there eventually, but there's not a lot of activity there right now to support it. So we're trying to start with the activity drivers first. That's where we're coming from here. With specific respect to the potential for an opiate clinic type facility, that would not be allowed. That would be considered a hospital. An overnight facility would be considered a hospital, or maybe a clinic, but both of which are specifically not allowed there. Thank you. Okay, moving along to our third change is the three-way zoning swap. There's been no changes made to this since November, so if you've seen this spiel before, you already know it. But basically, we are proposing to rezone 15 acres of Rogers Field. That's where the soccer games are, the ultimate frisbee games are most weekends. It's the whole field except for the Isengren Community Center. Rezone that to open space because it is zoned for Innovation Technology Center commercial use today, and we think that's kind of a quirk of the original reuse plan that needs to be addressed. At the same time, I can actually point up here. We have a portion of the Willowbrook Stream Corridor right here, which everyone's familiar with. That runs through a 3.5 acre parcel of land that's zoned for residential development right now. We don't feel that it's really appropriate for residential development because it's a stream corridor, and it's looking like actually we've got the budget this year to take that stream out of the culvert and they call it daylighting the stream, making it, renaturalizing it in its natural course. So basically rezoning that 3.5 acres from residential to open space, and then in exchange, we'd like to rezone the end of the Adams Circle neighborhood. This is by the net zero solar houses, where the single families, they're on the northern end of that Adams Circle loop. The rest of that neighborhood was for some reason zoned open space back in 1993. The road is still there where the old houses were. I'd like to say that you can see where the post office boxes were. There's no, you can still see the clearings where the houses were. It's really prime for residential redevelopment. That's a place where we would like to put some of the remaining 18 homes that are going to be left under the cap. So we'd like to rezone that from open space to residential. Comments?
So, Heather Knowles again. I agree with these changes. I just don't know if they go far enough. For starters, extending that neighborhood over there makes perfect sense. Beautiful neighborhood. They sold all those houses in 2 seconds. Great. Protecting the stream makes sense. Protecting Rogers Field makes sense. But why not protect the community center?
Because it's, you know, it's a developed area, there's a big parking lot there, it's a building. Someday we might want to rebuild the building, it's not,
That's what I'm worried about. So my concern about zoning is that I didn't realize that what's our park behind our house was really owned by Ladon, and is becoming a parking lot. So we're paving paradise for a parking lot in everyone's backyard today. So it makes me realize that we need to really look at zoning and hopefully have a buffer in the places where, like, we have our Easter egg hunt and all of that stuff. And I'd love to see a little bit bigger buffer around between where you get into the, what is that, not light industrial?
The Innovation
Research and
Technology
Innovation and
Center.
Technology. That strip around there.
my comrades.
Yeah, the Comrex and anything we can do to give a small buffer to what, I mean, we just consider these open spaces, because they're open spaces now, but they're not. Trust me, as of the digging that's going on over there. So I'd love to see at least the area around the Eisengren, but, I mean, they could sell Eisengren to a research and development company who could make it 3 stories and put in a parking lot over, you know, where we do our Easter egg hunt. I mean, it's zoned for that, it's owned by that, that could happen, it just happened. So anyway, I know it's too late for this one, but I really would like to look at that and the stuff around Comrex and see.
We commit to do that. with
See
you,
if we can
sure.
build a buffer.
We can work on that through this group.
Okay.
Where is the Comrex for those?
Comrex is around the other side of Walnut.
Comrex is on Pine, behind.
That was all the question, sorry. It's on Pine?
It's not on this plan that you're looking at
Oh,
here.
okay,
I can show you.
It's over on the other side of the street. It's over here.
okay.
Ken?
Okay. Any other comments on change number 3? Okay. Moving on to our final change. This is another zoning map change. We are talking about the southern portion of the Grant Road parcel, which is zoned residential. If you look at the figure in the handout, you can get a sense for where we're talking about. It's basically, it's this portion of the Grant Road parcel that is on the river side of Birch Circle, I believe. What our goal here is to be able to expand the existing spruce, or oak and maple parcels here, which are, I believe, in the vicinity of about 20 acres each, which is a decent sized parcel, but especially this year, we've had a number of large businesses come knocking at Devens looking to build large biotech manufacturing and R&D facilities. We're currently out of sites that are large enough to accommodate that. So what we would like to do is to rezone this southern portion of Grant Road, which is adjacent to the maple parcel, oak and maple, so that we could market it as one large parcel there and attract potentially larger users. We feel it's adequately buffered from the existing neighborhoods. Sure. Here's the end of Walnut Street, and that with topography, it will also be well buffered from the future Grant Road neighborhood.
Question?
Can you just review again where, I know like it's.
Sorry, would you just identify?
Yeah, sure,
yourself?
I don't mind. I didn't, hi, Laura Skolnick, 35 Walnut. How far does the Grant Road development go? They're gonna go onto Birch in like a phase 2? I can't quite remember.
It's gonna be onto a portion of Birch, yes. Portion of Birch generally north of Chance.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Sure.
Tim Hatch again. I heard it at a recent meeting, I don't know which one it was, I heard that there could be up to 500 jobs at a potential big pharma that comes into this area, into that area?
One of the recent companies that has come looking, and I guess we're still on their short list, yes, was saying it would be a 500 job, skilled labor type employer.
So I'm just wondering, what do you anticipate as the traffic configuration up there? Because it's sort of a hodgepodge right now. I just came through that area to get
Yeah.
here.
It's good.
Could you tell us
Yeah,
where the
that-
traffic's going to be maybe going and coming?
Well, most of the traffic's going to be coming in on Route 2, so it'll be coming up Jackson, and then it could basically detour down to Hospital. We're actually looking, we've got some preliminary engineering studies underway right now to try to rationalize. There's that string of 3 kind of shallow intersections that are pretty dangerous, actually, and certainly wouldn't be acceptable if there was a lot more traffic on those streets. So we're looking to make those changes potentially for the Grant Road neighborhood as well, because those residents are going to be using those streets. So that would accommodate these employees too.
Does the developer have an opinion about the business being that close to his houses, or I'm just curious?
They're comfortable with it, and they're also flexible. We're flexible, and I think they realize that the benefit of 500 new jobs at Devens means that they could maybe sell houses to some of those people, and if that happens, we'll skew things to the north. So.
I have a question quickly. Betsy Thiel from Devens. My question is this: if we get a really large company in that possibly has 500 jobs that they're offering, where are they going to park their cars, and will that spill into more than 40 acres that you're going to have to?
No, that would all be accommodated on the site.
Okay.
It would meet all existing Devens zoning regs, so wouldn't be quite as spread out as the Bristol Myers campus, but
Mhm. It would have to be closer, right? And
it
so
would look
there
more
is-
like some of the other businesses you see along Jackson Road.
So you think there would be enough buffer with the woods that are existing for the houses being built?
Yes. We actually did I think I'll bore some people by telling this story again, but we took the Devens fire truck, the hook and ladder out to sort of the middle of the site, and they popped up the ladder as high as it would go, which I think is 80 feet. And we went back to the edge of the proposed Grant Road neighborhood and looked for it. And this is in the dead of winter when there are no leaves on the trees, and we could not find it. So. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ed. We're going to move into the second phase of our meeting, which is basically a follow-up on the safety of the roads. And I welcome, you can stay from Shirley if you'd like, or you can go home and eat, whatever you'd like to do. I'm going to ask you if you've got 2 things, and that is, we've produced minutes of our last meeting, because this is a continuation of the meeting that we had before. Who did not receive those minutes?
I didn't.
Email?
You guys were gonna send out the options, and today is the
We
first
did.
day I saw them.
The minutes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, but we sent out
The
the options.
Yeah, all right. There are 3 people who may, I'll make sure that you get a copy of the minutes, okay?
Okay.
The second thing is you should have received a copy of what you just spoke of.
I
and that
shouldn't
is-
say today. In the announcement for this meeting, that was included,
That's
so about
right.
a week ago.
Right,
Okay,
that's right.
yeah.
And
that's
who
what I
did,
had.
who did not receive this? This is it came out in an announcement about a week ago on this meeting. Okay, someone's gonna have to take charge of Betty and make sure she gets.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh, that's underneath, that's what we were using for the board.
Okay, what I'd like to remind everybody of, we just need 1 meeting.
Yeah.
We're gonna discuss those right now. What I'd like to remind everybody of is you gotta read the minutes, because it's a record of what we basically agreed in the previous meeting, and it's not fair to go over the same thing and change the meeting agreements that we've had in the past. And what we agreed previously was, yes, we asked the question, are there problems on the private road with safety? And the answer to that question was yes. Number two, whose responsibility are the private roads? And the answer to that question was clearly it's the homeowners association and the condo association. And the third thing was, what can we do? And remember, Ed went through a number of alternatives, and we've kind of focused on one. But what we did agree was that that Mass Development volunteered to do a feasibility study on that particular alternative. Now, what came out was a little bit more than that, because one of our residents said, hey, we'd like to see more options. So Mass Development came up with a number of options, which included the option that we had spoke most of that evening. And the last thing was, we said that we would use the intersection of El Caney, the one that everybody's worried about, as the pilot project for something, that we would test it there, monitor it, and see if it would be useful in the other private roads. So that is a backdrop to Ed. Is it going to be Ed or?
It's Russ. It's gonna be Russ.
Going to be Russ. Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Russ. And you may want to introduce yourself, Russ, because
Yeah.
then you may not, once you get some of the questions.
Does anyone need a handout?
Yeah.
No, these are the, zoning changes. This is the zoning change. This is the slides.
Where are those sign-up sheets? Did someone get the sign-up sheets?
They're right here.
It's actually,
Oh, they're all different?
yeah, it's, you know, each of the six.
Oh, I don't know about getting them. I mean, that's.
They were sent out on March 23rd.
Laura, would you mind saying?
No, yeah, sure.
And where did you see it?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she left.
Did she?
Yeah, she spoke. Right? Yeah.
No, no, no.
First time. They have a quick fix.
She came
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Oh, no.
Maybe she just went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do we get it? We get it all on one screen. Well, I printed enough copies for everybody, Russ, so let's.
Thanks.
Why don't we see if we can get it while you start.
Yeah, we should put it on the TV.
I can have the TV easy. All right, Russ is going to start without video. So does everyone has a handout? You have to play along. Okay. Right.
Hi, I'm Russ Burke. I'm I head up the planning group with the BSC group. And we, as Ed had mentioned, we've been asked to take a look at the options that had been previously submitted as possible solutions to the traffic that's going on El Caney Street, and asked us to first evaluate them and add our own comments, as well as look at other alternatives, as was previously mentioned, that may be considered. We were also asked to make some physical representations of what they may look like on the ground, as well as get a sense of what the cost implications would be with the various proposed options. And we're getting the TV set up as Plan B, so I don't have to do hand signals up there, but there we go. So if some of you want to move a little
If anyone needs
closer
to
up
move up, yeah.
to view it, yeah, we're there. So just okay. So, as I said, Union Station prepared several options on behalf of the development for the Devens Village Green development. Mass Development engaged us, and we've been tasked, so I've gone through that slide. The purpose of the study is El Caney Street's a private road, and there's some instance of traffic beyond what's originally intended for, cut-through traffic that is utilizing that street, and what measures could be taken to discourage and dissuade people from using El Caney Street as a cut-through instead of its original purpose of being a service area for the residents there. Additionally, there's the concern with the Grant Road development that traffic may find its way using El Caney Street as an access point as well. So what I'm going to go through is 8 different options which are outlined on this slide. And you can all read it, and we'll go into detail with each of them. If you have any questions about any of the options as we're going through them, please feel free to ask away, and then we will follow up with after we've gone through them all, we have a matrix where we can look at them all on a single matrix and compare the pluses and minuses. The study area is located at the intersections of Chance Street, El Caney, Walnut, as shown. You can all see it right in that area. And what happens is that Antietam Street, which starts with Jackson Road, people can go through Antietam and then comes right out to Chance Street. And after Chance Street, you just go straight through onto El Caney Street. So it makes it a very attractive continuation of Antietam if you happen to be traveling on that street. And this is what the existing conditions look like when you come up Antietam at the intersection with Chance Street to the left, and you can see on the right of the slide the existing signage that has been put in place to discourage people, though sometimes not successfully. That's limited to local traffic, and through traffic should not be using it. Fortunately, it seems these signs are being ignored. So we'll go to the first option, which is the proposal of putting in place a couple of speed humps. These are basically not bumps, but humps that go up to a plateau and drop down. But the purpose of the speed humps are to cause vehicles to slow down, because if you don't, it really tests your shocks and can disturb the undercarriage of your car. Union Studio had put together their assessment in terms of pluses and minuses. It wouldn't have any effect on the existing lots. It would result in discouraging some through traffic because of the need to slow down as you approach these. The cost is not major. While it does slow down the traffic, it doesn't necessarily redirect people. People can still go through. And it's a nuisance for people who live there and have to drive it every day. That is the residents. When we looked at it, we concurred with the positive. It does reduce speed. It may have some influence on diverting traffic, and it's inexpensive. We also added, in terms of the negatives, it may result in some increased noise because people are braking, slowing down as they reach the bumps. If their vehicle is slow enough, it might even make a little scraping sound as it goes across, and then, of course, when they accelerate after they've left. It also may have some effects in terms of the road drainage, because it poses a divide in topography, and it could have some effects on drainage and snow plowing.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry. The costs that you have in place here, those are to put them in, right?
Yes.
Do you have any estimate of maintenance costs, and would this be maintained by the homeowners?
We did not look at the maintenance cost. Most of these are, a couple of things. One of the things that we looked at, we really didn't articulate, but one thing that we may want to talk about is the applicability of these to be done on a trial basis. That could these be done without, on a trial basis? And in terms of long-term maintenance, the things with speed humps, oftentimes with the plows, they get torn up.
I know.
So
So you're
that's,
gonna have to put them in every year, that's gonna be.
that's a consideration.
That,
but-
that would bump your expenses
Yeah,
up.
but I think that's something maybe when we start looking at all the alternatives together, something that we might just want to look at collectively.
Hi, Isabel Geller, 43 Walnut. We've tried the temporary speed bumps before, and they were outside my house, and the noise is extreme. But what we noticed is cars, instead of going over the speed bump, go around and they tear up the grass.
Yes.
And we would put stuff out there, and they'd put a lawn chair out there, and they'd run that over.
Oh, gee.
And it was awful.
The big stump worked really well, though.
But, we shouldn't be having to do that.
Yeah. So these are all good points, and again, as we start looking at the 8 alternatives, these are things that we want to really throw into the mix, because that's a very good point. Disappointed we didn't catch that one.
Well, I don't want to pay to reseed every year.
Right. Now, the second option is called a neck down, and essentially what this is, as you can see on the sketch, it's a narrowing at the entranceway. It's a choking down to create a more narrow entranceway or exitway going out. And what this does is, as you approach Alcaney Street from Antietam, it provides a physical notice that, hey, you're coming into a different type of road, unlike the existing conditions where it looks like you're just continuing through a roadway the same width, it looks the same. This causes some pause to the traffic. And our evaluation, and this is a sketch of what it might look like. There are various ways. This one has some pillars marking sort of a gateway, and could think of some decorative elements to put on top of them, maybe some lions or something like that.
BSC is paying for the lines, right?
Plastic inflatable lions then.
Flamingos.
Flamingos.
Artillery.
Yes.
You're not fast.
There must be some old ones we could shellac and mount, right?
Don't get me started. As I mentioned, it does provide some physical visible brakes for the approaching traffic. It can create, depending on your perspective, a nice feature, or could, in some opinions, maybe be not so nice a feature. Doesn't appear that it would allow any disturbance to existing lots, no encroachments. It would have some traffic calming costs, and it's the it would be a little more expensive than the bumps, but the cost wouldn't be exorbitant. It does present, in terms of negatives, some narrowing of the access for the residents and emergency access. The fire department may want to weigh in terms of can their trucks get in and out because of the narrow isthmus that it represents. We agreed in our assessment with the Union Studios assessment of the positives. We also noted that extra care during snow plowing, truck turns, emergency vehicles, possibility that it may result in best to have a one-way circulation pattern because of the narrow, if you have two cars trying to get through at the same time, it could pose problematic. And it may cause some confusion at the intersection, which may be a good or a bad thing depending on your point of view. The third option is a split entry, which is almost the antithesis of the narrowing down. Instead of having a restriction coming in from both sides, you plop a divider in the middle of the intersection. And again, this creates a physical presence that informs the approaching traffic that, hey, you're coming into a different street. It, again, has negligible disturbance to the existing lots. It does result in some traffic calming. The cost is probably the same as the choke down. It does, of course, with the narrowing, create some issues as far as emergency vehicles, truck access. We agreed with the assessments of Union Studio. We also felt that it could possibly create some landscaping opportunities. We put a price at $20,000 to $50,000, depending on how elaborate you go. Some of the negatives additional is that it may cause, when people are coming out, making a right turn, looking to the left, it could possibly create some sight distance issues that you don't see the oncoming traffic. And it may, depending on the size of it, may require in needing to widen the existing roadway to have sufficient lane width on either side of the island. The fourth option, this was again proposed by Union Studio, was a more radical, elaborate, which basically looks at a relocation of the roadway, shifting it east. Thank you. And what this does, as you can see on the rendering, as you come up Antietam, you have a big plot of grass right in front of you. And so that really creates a physical presence that you shouldn't go through. And if you have to take a left anyways, you'd be more inclined to just go down Chance Street out to Sherman, as opposed to then taking another right to go out. And it would, because of the angle of the turn, if you were coming from the Grant Road development, that makes it a more than a 90-degree angle to take a right turn to go on Candy Street, and would promote traffic going through on Chance Street out to Sherman Street. The physical break doesn't result in any for the residents on Walnut Street. It doesn't restrict their flow in and out. And it doesn't have any emergency access issues. It would result in some disturbance to the existing lot lines and streets there, and it is not a cheap date. We added that it wouldn't hinder snow plowing, and then we've added some additional negatives in terms of the construction outside of the existing right-of-way.
Which means construction on privately owned land.
Yes.
The home, they're going to acquire land from the home at the end.
The impact may not ultimately, at the end of the day, totally divert traffic. Somebody's hell-bent on going up Elkanny Street, they'll make the left, they'll make the right. And the cost, we're starting to get up into the six figures in terms of potential costs. Yes?
That actually makes an interesting question. It's not specifically about this one, but, so technically we own the road and all the way across to the other side, right? A certain distance, like 10 feet or something across the road. So any of these options that you do, like let's say one of the first ones with the thing coming out from the side, even though you're on the street, do you require something special from that homeowner or just from the homeowners association? Because it's technically their property, I think. Or if we go far enough out towards that pointy end of that lot, is it just an easement and not their property? Do you know? This is something to think about. I think it might all be that house's
Well, we
property.
didn't look at terms of what the, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but is there easement rights or fee ownership in the road?
I believe there's a cross easement for all the residents in the homeowners association to utilize that, so one homeowner couldn't decide to block it off.
Okay.
Right, so,
Okay,
so there's,
it would be part of the homeowner's easement, so it would be a homeowner's vote or whatever, but it's not specific to that property.
I would
although
assume-
all of that would be separate because
This
this
one would.
alternative takes
This
part
one.
of the side yard.
Yeah.
So-
This would, yeah, be going, I don't know what the exact boundaries of the easement are. I assume it's close, it's probably a few feet beyond the edge of pavement on either side.
Okay.
But as you can see on this plan, it's going way off the reservation into private property.
Yeah. Although I think as it was originally conceived, it was meant to go into the into the orange over there. This was to curve. I'm just thinking about what my husband told me about what they was to go out here and curve that way and then curve back. So you used this land, not this land.
Not sure.
Okay. But you're right. Getting that land from that homeowner is going to be a mess.
And going across the street would
Yeah.
be a rather,
Messy too.
we might as well put a cloverleaf interchange in, I suppose.
You put a rotary in.
Or flyover. This is the last alternative that Union Studio had come up with, which is basically providing for a cul-de-sac and taking the last house on Walnut Street that would have its driveway relocated out onto Chan Street, and then a turnaround would be provided here, and the last two houses would have still access, but the turnaround would be in that location. I personally don't find that to be well, it certainly prevents through traffic, but I don't find this a particularly elegant solution. It's a little bit of overkill, I think, and it's probably the most expensive and the most disruptive of all the alternatives, but I think as part of the exercise, we shouldn't be stifled and should look at a full array of spectrum of solutions, but
That came up this option came up at an earlier meeting as a suggestion.
Okay.
That we should look at,
so in any event, we have looked at it, and I think the benefits and the negatives are fairly obvious. I don't know if anybody wants to beat this horse any further. And the cost is probably the most expensive of all the alternatives. And Ed would be looking at me to pay for it, which I'm not willing to do. So then we decided to look at some other options that we came up with. And option 6 is a proposal of, it's called chicanes, which are a series of bump outs that basically you use them to create more of a curvilinear flow to the roadway as opposed to a straight shot. So you do that by taking away from one side, adding to another side. So you make sort of a serpentine view by basically building out here and then coming in and weaving. It doesn't show very well on the rendering because it's a very subtle type of approach, but it does have the benefit of slowing traffic down because you just can't go in a straight shot. You do have to weave side to side. It doesn't divert the traffic. It doesn't. It's not a major cost, and it doesn't. It does provide some landscaping opportunities. Its effectiveness I would say if you had greater flexibility in putting more severe curves in, that might work a little better, but you're dealing with a limited right-of-way to work with, and unless you're going off the reservation to really make it serpentine, I think its effectiveness may not be as lasting as we would want. Option 7 is a bump out, which we came up with, and the bump out is proposed to basically take this side of the roadway. So when you're coming down from Antietam, when you come to the intersection, you basically have half of the roadway, if you were going straight, blocked off to you. So you do have to make an adjustment to go around. And so if you're automatically all of a sudden turning to the left, you may find it just as easy to keep going left and go down Chance Street out to Sherman Street, as opposed to going straight through. The other thing it does is, because of the angle of the bump out, and again, the geometry needs to be perfected, but as you're coming down from the Grant Street area, again, it's a very acute or obtuse, I guess it's depending on which side of the angle you're looking at, but it's a very severe right turn. It's more than a 90 degree. You have to really come in, so it would tend to dissuade people from making the right turn down Alcanny Street if you're coming from the Grant Road area.
Could you combine that with the pillars too? Would that work?
You could do ornamentation with the pillars.
Okay.
That would be a possibility.
Set it off.
Now, the pluses and minuses of this, it does provide some landscaping opportunities, and as suggested, we could embellish it with some pillars or some other type of monumentation on either side. The other thing, this is something that can be tested fairly easily. I mean, you go out with some wooden or PVC makeshift this summer and just put it up with some signage and see how effective it is in dissuading traffic from going down. Needs to be vetted with the fire department in terms of turning radius, but we believe that you can maintain the sufficient widths that would allow for emergency vehicles to do it. The way we have it designed.
What is, if it's a more permanent bump, I mean, it says physical barrier, but what would it be? I guess, because from your picture,
Well, what we're showing in the picture is there'd probably be a curbing, so it would be built up with a curb going around the perimeter, and then the inside would be built up with a berm, earthen material, and the height of that is really variable. So if you want to build it up a few feet high, we are proposing that there be signage on there that, so as you're coming this way, there's a do not enter, but if you were coming up from this way, you could still come in, so the residents aren't, so it's partial, almost a partial one-way, so if you're coming up Antietam, you can't go in, but if you're coming in from Chance Street, you could take the left turn coming in. So
Against the wall then.
well, Walnut on Chance Street, yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't deprive residents from getting in and out, but it does basically prevent the Antietam through traffic, as well as makes the Grant Road right turn option onto Alcaney very unattractive.
This is just a general question. Whatever we do here, will there be a stop sign when Chance comes into Antietam?
I'll talk about that in the next slide.
Okay,
Because
Because that-
it's a good question, and it has.
because that would be really a good deterrent. You're stopped, and then, you know, you've gotta go, what, 8 feet, and then take a right.
And you have time to look, so you don't just say like, I don't know where I am, I guess I'm just gonna go straight.
Exactly.
Well,
I mean, this looks in general, this is what I was talking about, by the way, this is what I was talking about, where it just curves off without taking off the,
so going to the,
I think it's already a four-way stop sign, somebody there's not a road there. There's a stop sign, yeah.
It might be on the,
There's a- yeah.
okay, and option 8, speaking of stop signs, so you cued it very well. The last option we came up with is just making it a 4-way stop. Now, our traffic engineers begrudgingly let me put this in because in terms of traffic planning, this is not exactly what the Institute of Traffic Engineers would recommend, because first I was advised that stop signs should not be used for traffic calming. That's not their purpose. Traffic signs, stop signals should be used only for stopping where there's critical intersections. Secondly, the amount of traffic on these streets and at this intersection does not meet the traffic volumes that warrant, and that's a word that the traffic people use, warrant, the installation of stop signs, particularly a 4-way stop. And part of the traffic engineering rationale behind that is if stop signs become so ubiquitous, they lose their value because people start thinking, oh gee, they have a traffic signal here and a stop signal here and it really isn't needed, and drivers will become will start ignoring stop signs. So traffic engineers are very parsimonious where stop signs are installed, not wanting them to become so ubiquitous that people ignore them and they become a superfluous.
This may be a special circumstance.
Yes. The other thing with the 4-way stop sign is stops and starts. You have the stopping sound, then the acceleration, as well as the exhaust fumes from that motion. So, while it seems a fairly simple solution, there are some issues with it. And it's not to say that if you were hell-bent on doing it, you could do it, but I'm just advising you that the traffic engineers wanted me to make sure that I addressed the concerns they raised with me. Yes?
Well, I think it's interesting, because what I wondered about, because in terms of when in the bigger meeting we had going over, you know, what were the problems and what were the types of traffic that was coming through, and one type was the people who are coming from the game and just kind of keep going up in Tatum and then go to El Caney, right? And the people who know the shortcuts, right? So I guess I wondered why, and you've partially probably answered the question, but if you don't necessarily need to go by the strict rule, if you could put a stop sign at where Malvern and Antietam is, and then you would probably stop, and then I think, I'm sorry, the new Devens head lead.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you mentioned like, well, is there even signage how to get to Route 2? And you put up the sign, go to Route 2 this way. That's going to force people then to turn. And, you know, overkill would be you put another stop sign at 76th and Antietam. But if you're creating a residential area, which is what you're doing with the Grant Road area, then you do want people to stop. And in those like little development areas, sometimes they do put up stop signs, and it is because they don't want people racing through, and it's kind of out. So anyway, I just wondered if you could use that as a simple tool, and that you're putting in an apartment building. Where is that, on 76th and Elm? Is that where that's?
On the other side of, well, if you go down, if Chance continued all the way to Grant,
Yeah.
it would be on the other side of Grant, right there.
Oh, it's on the other, it's not on the
No,
Elm.
it's not on the homeowner side of Grant.
Oh, is something, sorry, I realize it's tangent, but I'm trying to understand the traffic flow. Is something going where the old tennis court is?
No, that's zoned for business use, I believe.
Oh, okay, all right, so that's a anyway, so I wonder about more stop signs, just to break up the traffic, because that would stop the cut-throughs, because if you're cutting through, if you have to make all those stops, you're not gonna do it. You're like, forget it, I'll just stay on, you know, the main road.
But
So-
what happens in traffic engineering parlance is the stop signs become perceived as being meaningless, and people start ignoring that because there's nobody, when they come to them, there's never any reason that they should have stopped. But you notice on, I just went back to the bump out option, we are showing a stop sign for the reason because when you do come to Antietam's intersection with Chance Street, the stop sign is put in place because if you kept going straight without someone, you'd be plowing into the bump out. So in this instance, a stop sign is warranted to make sure people don't go plowing into it.
So, okay, I'm actually less worried about what's going on right now. I mean, we get a few cars down there, you know, than, 120 homes who wanna go to Dunkin' Donuts. And it's very clear, you're not gonna go Grant all the way around to Givry and Loop and, you're not gonna do it. You're gonna come to this intersection right here.
Mhm.
And even if you don't make a right onto El Caney, you're gonna make a right onto Walnut. So you're going by my house either way, right? If you're gonna connect two large neighborhoods, it just seems to me, people are gonna walk along there. And having Chance Street come through with no stop sign makes not an easy way for someone to walk across this. And lots of people do walk across it right now, and hopefully the kids and everyone, if you wanna connect these two neighborhoods. I feel that the Chance Street coming in to this intersection should have a stop sign no matter what. Didn't even occur to me it wouldn't until I just looked at your drawings, but that should not be, it's gonna be a relatively heavy flow of traffic, and it has to slow down. There's kids on that road all the time, and, there's gonna be kids. This is hopefully gonna be a quiet road, right? So you get the kids on the bikes and everything and stuff, and hopefully the kids from the other neighborhood will come over and be on this road. So, I don't know, just maybe separate from this discussion, maybe not. I don't actually care about that stop sign, but I care about the stop sign coming in from the new neighborhood.
Mhm. Well, again, stop signs are probably the least costly
Yes.
measure, and it's really a function of the judicial deployment of
And I
them.
do understand, because somebody blew through the Givry stop sign, didn't even look at it, hit me in the car, big scar, I get it, because people ignore those stop signs when there's not regularly enforced.
Mhm.
Tom, did you want to kind of,
That'll give the police more to do, right? So then they can collect more tickets, so it's good. It's
Oh,
more
on the
tax
signage
money.
front? On the signage front, just one other thing, I think a fun threat would be private way, or no trespassing, just, because it is owned by,
it's accurate?
so, just,
Yeah,
people
no.
tend to listen to that more than,
That type of signage certainly can be, and I think the installation of, as Ed had suggested, some monumentation on either side, just creates the physical sense. It says to people, it's a private way, I shouldn't be going down here. So I think there are design techniques that we could put in place that would further enhance the private nature of that way.
You have a summary slide, don't you?
Yes, thank you. Okay, this is a breakdown of the 8 options and their costs. As you can see, we range from below $1,000 all the way up to $300,000, depending on which flavor of solution that you're looking at. Many of these course, the cul-de-sac and the offset intersection are options that are not easy to do on a temporary basis. Some of the other options lend themselves to being done on a trial basis through temporary construction and seeing how it works. And the last slide, we have the dollar amounts here, and we've kind of simplified it on this slide by using a menu trick, $1, $2, or $3 signs to reflect the relative cost associated with the options, what some of their features are. You go onto Amazon.com and you compare 2 or 3 different products, get to line them up. So we thought this might be something that's helpful for people to compare options. And then the last slide is really what is everyone's preference and assigning of responsibilities with respect to the costs, both of construction, and as you had mentioned, what are the maintenance responsibilities and obligations that would accompany these options.
Okay. Just thank you very much. That was very helpful. Just as a review, the hard part's over. The easy part is we've got to decide on which one we want. That's probably going to take about 5 or 10 seconds, so or maybe a little longer. But we got to agree that there's going to be somebody disappointed in the room, I'm sure. But we've got to. The second thing we have to remember is this is a trial. This is a trial. What we're going to try to do is come up with an approach which is a trial. We're going to monitor it and see if it is successful, and if it's not, then we have to go back to the drawing board and come up with an alternative. But if you look at this summary, the way you have the check marks, and you agree with the criteria, there's a couple that stand out. And I know I have a preference myself. But you've got to consider that each one of us has to have a say. Now, we can either do this by a show of hands on each alternative, which is probably the best thing to do and the quickest, or we can have a debate, which is probably the least likely thing that we should be doing. All right? So, in order to qualify for a vote, you have to be a resident of Devens. Okay? And what I'd like to show, there's a comment, just one comment.
Did people know that this was there had to be here or vote, or you're done? I mean, like, I'm just thinking the residents of this street might get a paper vote. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if we're gonna really, if this is a vote.
Well, there has to be some limit to what it is that.
Correct, but you
can
didn't
make
say
a
that
best,
in email.
we can make a best, we make our best effort to get the emails out, to get the minutes. The minutes were very clear what the objective of this session was.
Okay, but your thing that you sent out did not say, we will vote at the end of this meeting and it will be binding.
Well, we don't have to. We can let it fester and go on and on and on and on if we want.
I know your opinion. I'm saying the people who didn't know that they couldn't be here. Maureen couldn't be here. Her dad, she's got surgery. You know, there's lots of people who can't physically be here.
Heather, it's not going to be binding, there's going to be a trial.
Okay.
Philip, did someone say what was that?
Yeah, I had my hand up. To do a paper ballot, for people that haven't gone through any of the information on what the choices are, we didn't have to have this meeting. We just put out a paper ballot. I made an effort to be here tonight. If anybody else wanted to be here, they can make an effort to be here tonight and take part of it. So let's move ahead.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Who's paying for this?
This meeting? I am.
Whatever improvements that we're doing.
That's the next question.
Okay.
But once we decide
That's not for tonight.
what it is,
But it will be, because if it's the homeowners association, everybody who's in the homeowners association who lives on Elm or the other part of Walnut or in the ranches and they don't know that their homeowners association is paying for this part of El Caney, they'll say, oh, well, they're discussing El Caney.
Look,
It
I-
Well,
doesn't-
they
I
have
think
to, it's
there's-
by law you'd have to, if it was.
I think
the
there's a
home
lot of
association
things we need to
pays, they
do.
have to.
There are a lot of things we need to do. We need to get the other people to weigh in on it. We need to determine who's going to prefer. But as we sit here tonight, is there a preferred approach? That would be a great step forward, right?
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of things that we need to accomplish. And question number 2 or 3 is who's going to pay for it. We've already talked about where is the problem. It's on all of our private roads. Who is responsible? It's the homeowners association, it's the condo association. But we've got some people who are willing to help out on this. But if we don't decide something to do, then we're just, everybody's wasting their time.
They're gonna do nothing.
I understand, but there are people in the homeowners association who do not have a private road. Those are the ranches on Walnut Street on the other side. So they would.
Are you representing them, or you just want
No,
to?
I'm just commenting that they would see what the meeting's about, and they're saying, oh, private roads doesn't apply to us.
No, I think that's an obligation we'll have to do,
Okay,
the
that's
Devens
perfectly
committee, to
clear.
kind of get everybody behind this thing and pushing it. But I think tonight, if we came out of this meeting with a preferred approach, we're one giant step forward.
This, in terms of process, maybe you could have top 2, you know, you have your preferred 1 and 2 or something, I don't know.
Or we could have 5 if we
Yeah,
want.
right, you could rank them, yeah.
Right.
Might end up being fun.
Sorry, I was late.
You're gonna have to,
A little disoriented.
we're recording this, so.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that we could make comments until we were past number 2,
Oh my gosh.
option 2. Can I just make one small comment, please?
Sure.
One thing that wasn't mentioned about number 2 that I just thought was relevant was that that is something that can also be modified. It's something that we talked about in the previous meetings. That it can be modified, that if we feel like it's not enough just to have the 2 pillars, that we could more easily modify it to put a simple gate up. You know, it could just be like a little PVC pipe or something that, you know, just very simply run, but that you know, if the other designs are just harder to jump to the, I guess the ultimate would be to put a gate up that you would, you know, need like a clicker to get in and out of so that only residents of that section could go to. And that's not something that we want to jump to right away, but it's something that it could come to, and just number 2 could be most easily modified to do that. That's all I wanted to say.
I would suggest a couple things. One is that raises much larger issues that gated communities in Massachusetts are not terribly common, and I don't know what type of rules of the road apply. Many of these options, you could put a gate up. Option 2 would be the only one that you could do it for, but it does raise issues as far as how does it comply with state law in terms of gating access ways, emergency access, and there is an issue with respect to inconvenience. You have visitors coming or et cetera, and how do they get in? You buzz people. There's also very significant cost issues as well as maintenance issues and who runs it. So it's, on first blush, it sounds like a simple solution, but when you start drilling down there are a lot of attendant
All right,
issues
no, I don't
associated
think
with that.
it's easy, but I just think, because a lot of people have mentioned before that it's something they'd like to explore, and just, like with number 2, it could be the easiest to modify to that. I'm saying it's not an ideal option because it's such a big deal and logistical nightmare, but, you know, it'd be nice to have the option if all of this doesn't work.
Okay? So, what is your preferred approach? Would we like to, are there any questions on this chart? I think this chart here, if it's still up there. No, it's not. This chart here.
Looking at the question.
One more. This chart here. Regina?
I think it might be a good idea to.
You're gonna have to identify yourself, Regina. We're being recorded.
Regina Kim, 65 Walnut Street. I was gonna say it might be a good idea to remove the ones that just people don't think will work. For example, number 6 and the speed humps. So 1 and 6. That's not gonna keep people off the road. It's just once they get on the road, it's gonna be a hindrance. And the main problem is keeping them off the road.
Good point.
So I wanna see if people wanna get rid of 1 and 6 right now.
That's a very good point. It might be easier for us to eliminate a few first. All right? The suggestion from Regina is that we eliminate numbers
1 and 6.
1 and 6. All in favor? Okay, success. That leaves, 1 and 6 are out, so that's the speed humps and the chicanes are out.
No more chicanery.
That actually might be fun for that guy coming through on the
Holy
motorcycle, you know? Might be fun for him.
If we're eliminating things, then I think realistically the 2 super high dollar ones should go.
Good point.
Just because I think it's gonna be hard to get someone to do them, but I also just do not see, I mean, that house in the corner is for sale. You're not gonna get someone to be signing away their property rights
Yeah.
on that in anything resembling a timely fashion and rerouting roads and taking people's property away.
That's a very good point.
Aside from the 100
The
grand.
suggestion is, we take the 2 most expensive ones out. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Okay. That would take, what numbers are we out of now? We're out of
We have 3,
4 and 5.
3, 7, and 8.
So we have 3, 7,
No, 2, 3.
2, 3,
Oh, excuse me, 2, 3, 7, and 8.
2, 3, 7, and 8. The neck downs,
2 ways of necking.
the median island. Phil, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah,
This
I-
is our
I move
Vice
that we-
President of Technical Support, Phil.
My suggestion is we take 8 out. Doesn't achieve the
I agree.
people
8
going
doesn't-
through, it just creates a problem.
Yeah, I don't think that helps anything.
Suggestion is we remove 8. All in favor? Against?
Can I, does that mean, but you are interested in maybe one
A single
stop
stop
sign?
sign.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
so-
that's
Oh,
what I
yeah.
was
Oh,
gonna
we're gonna start tailoring the options.
Yes,
once we
good,
pick
good.
them.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't against
Good
all
point.
stop signs. So
Right.
point.
I think that could be.
Okay, what does that review? That leaves us with what?
2,
Neck down,
3,
medium.
7.
2, 3, and 7.
Down, medium, and bump.
2, 3, and 7. 2, 3, and 7. If we use that chart, they're almost all the same, maybe from a benefit point of view. 2, 3, and 7. You have a suggestion?
Well, I think we could, I'll have to check with Dave Blazon, but I think in terms of testing
Yeah.
alternatives, we could test all 3 using basically the same materials. So if people were interested in seeing how these all worked, we
Yeah,
could,
although you're
That's a
testing
great
them,
idea.
you're testing them in a situation that isn't addressing the future, right? So if we pick an option,
well, let's see if it
No,
gets
wait.
better. It should.
No, wait, if I understand what you're saying, if we test all 3, we could expand the test beyond El Caney.
No, I'm saying test serially, test option 2 for 2 weeks, and then reconfigure the materials to try option 3
Yeah.
for 2 weeks.
that's gonna be hard to collect data. It's just such a short thing if you happen to have a burst of people in the field, or if you don't, or
Well, it's-
just from an engineering data collection standpoint.
The suggestion is that we test
But you could,
the 3 remaining over a period of time.
Are you willing?
All in favor of that?
Is there a cost to that?
Sure there is.
The testing mass development will facilitate.
Is that a vote for that, Phil, or do you want to say
No,
something?
my suggestion is that we see if there's any overwhelming preference
That's a
in
good
those 3 first.
Okay, all right.
Do that one first, and if it seems successful, then let's evaluate that more extensively.
All in favor of 2?
Can we vote for 2?
Sure.
Yeah,
All right.
the one that-
No, I'm gonna vote for 2. And two different ones.
Right.
How many?
Well, we got to see the hands.
As long as we can vote for another one, too.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
these are confusing it. They can vote on their favorite.
Six.
Well, right, I mean,
What was the next
I'd
one?
like to see.
Three.
Three.
I'd like to see.
Who'd like to vote for 3? How about you, Betsy? What would you like to vote for? 3?
well,
Who'd like to vote for 3? Oh, 3's.
No one.
Three's not popular. 3 goes off.
Yeah.
And then the remaining one is?
Number
Seven.
seven, the bump out.
Who's in favor of 7?
Okay.
Well, it's about, it's either,
Two-way tie.
it's either 3 or 7? Did we say 3?
See, I didn't
It's 2 or 7.
2 or, so it's either 2 or 7, right? Could you go back to 2, please? And just show us what that is again, very quickly?
I'll go to both of them.
7, try 7, you're
This is
there, you're
seven.
there.
The bump out, again, provides the physical barrier as you come up El Caney. There's a physical presence that requires you to turn left. It also provides a very acute angle to make a right turn if you're coming from the Grant Road area.
And what is 2?
Okay, everybody
Yep.
good with that? And
Oh.
2 is basically a narrowing down of the entranceway with Ed's pillars and the inflatable lions on top.
How about a
can we
variation to
combine them?
that?
Yeah.
How about a variation to that? How about, what was
pitch
it,
down, the
7?
pillars.
The neck
The
down?
neck down, yeah. Or the,
The neck
The
down, but
bump
you still
out.
got that goofy
The
curve.
bump out with the
goofy curve.
pillars.
yeah, it's not too different from this.
Well,
It's just-
what happens is when you start doing the neck down with the curve is you have to really keep the radius, so you really, so essentially when you do that, you end up with a bump out.
With the neck down?
Because the bump out, you still have to keep a width wide enough that allows a turning radius.
So the neck down and the bump out are pretty similar, is what you're saying?
Yes, and they're both similar. I think in terms of,
What about if we did 2 with the stop sign right there at, whatever, what's the name of the road we're looking at here? What leads to El Caney?
Antietam?
Antietam.
Antietam.
With a stop sign. What about if we did 2 with a stop sign?
You could do that.
2 what? Option 2 with the
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah.
I really prefer 7. I think that
We'll
physically.
take a vote, but I'm just getting some variations
Oh,
right
we
now.
can also-
Let me ask a question. Is it a fair statement from a design perspective that option 7 is half of option 2? Or is there a difference in the way you design the bump up?
The difference with option 7 and option 2 is the option 7 is designed to more restrict a right turn
Coming from Grant,
Coming
from
this
the Grant
way.
Road neighborhood, you're
It's
gonna have
easier
to
to take a right turn with option
Which
2.
today is not available. I mean, today that's not
Doesn't
available.
exist.
Doesn't exist.
No, but it's going to exist.
Right.
And with,
So this test isn't gonna show
And-
anything from that point of view.
Well, you can get a set as a driver, so you can see what.
So,
but with the bump out, the right turn coming in this way is made more difficult because you have to
Do more than.
do more than a
But if you-
90-degree
if you
turn.
have the narrowing option 2, without the far side bump out existing, is it the same design? Or is it a different design than 7?
7 is asymmetrical, 2 is symmetrical.
Asymmetrical for the design of that side of the bump out.
If you put if you do it, with number 2, if you do a line down the center, you can take that side and flip it over, it's the
Right.
same there. With option 7, you can't do that.
It's not the same design.
No,
Okay.
because it's more skewed to not only to put a barrier right across from Antietam when you're coming up, but also to make the turn coming in from the Grant Road area more severe.
Tom, questions on that?
Questions?
So,
Go ahead.
if you do this on other service roads, I'm Kathy Cuoco. If you do this on other service roads, because this might become the norm, I'm just thinking if I turn into my road on Elm, it's going to be too drastic of a curve. So
Yeah.
you're now making all the streets have to do that.
Everyone's going to be different. There's going to be a different solution based on the geometry
You
of.
don't have the
Yeah, it would be
Alcani
too
tunnel.
hard. Right,
Yes,
it
it's-
would just be different.
It's really, situationally driven, because this is a three-way that's about to become a four-way intersection, and where is the predominant traffic or the troubled traffic coming from? So each intersection will get its own specific solutions, and one size does not fit all.
Is it a question, Phil?
Just a comment, really, it's part of a question. My assumption is on either 2 or 7, that there's going to be clear signage that you're trying to go into a restricted private road,
Yes.
along with whatever else we decide to put there. So it's not just the configuration,
but you
but it's
have-
also signage
You have
saying
that
you're not supposed to be
you have
here.
that signage there now that people ignore because the physicality of the roadway doesn't reflect what the signage is saying. With 2 and 7, you are putting in place a physical manifestation of what the signage is telling you. You're not supposed to be coming down here. This is different. The street is different than the street you just came on. Don't come down.
We have an instance for 3 years now where we've done that in the middle of the road on Elm Alley. We have signage at the beginning saying only certain buildings, this is a driveway. We have barriers in the middle of the road which says dead end, but it's split so that vehicles can go pass through. But when somebody turns the road, they essentially see dead end. And that has solved our problem, and we didn't figure anything other than put up 2 barriers with signs at either end that said, you're not supposed to be going down here, it's a private road, this is a private driveway.
And again,
Yeah, but those barriers are what works. Those barriers are awesome, I agree. When you
Here's
see,
a question here.
you can't get through.
I mean, Kathy already touched on the point I was gonna make, which is just that I thought we were gonna use this kind of as a prototype.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
this might be more difficult to adapt to all of the other private roads.
That's a good point. Okay, so we're down to 2, and what was the other one? 7. 2 and 7, and it's clear that, oh, sorry, Betty, you had your hand up.
Betty? And I wonder if we can't just put on those neck downs in bold letters, no access on each of those. That would be better than the signage that's ignored, I think.
You guys should brainstorm the best
We can.
words.
I mean, the signage is, applicable to any of the alternatives. But the signage should reflect, what does no access mean? Who does it apply to?
It applies to anybody except those homeowners on
And,
Okay.
drivers are,
UPS.
drivers are smart, they figure things out. And the other thing to keep in mind, I know there are other streets in Devens that are concerned, but you also have to look at, are they all subject to the same amount of traffic? Is there people just looking to find small streets in Devens to drive down for the heck of it? I don't think that's the case.
We had in
I
our
think
previous meeting, we asked that question,
Yeah.
and this is a universal problem, it's not one
This might
specific to that.
This might be the worst
True,
instance.
but this is about to get double.
But
The
this
entire,
is a
it's gonna
street,
double
this is a street where an existing.
Devens.
Right.
Antietam is not a minor street, and
Right.
it just comes to where Alcani, which is a private service drive, is the same width, and.
Exactly.
And an existing street
Yeah.
empties right into it, and
Yeah.
if I just go through there, I'm up
Right.
to Sherman Street and off to the
Did
races.
did you get the minutes of our previous meeting?
No,
I want to ask
I'm just
again,
omniscient.
if you take 7 and you install the, what did you call them?
Pillars.
The pillars
Pillars.
are
Can-
monumentation.
Is that a possibility?
Yeah, can we do that? Can we just combine them?
Sure.
All right, here's the question then, in the sake of time. We have number 2, which is clear. We have number 7, which can be modified, am I right? Yeah.
Yes.
7 can be modified to put pillars in. So you have 2, which is the narrowing, and you have 7, which is the curvature,
Mhm.
with pillars. Who's in favor of 2?
I like them modifying everything.
I like the combination.
Yeah, so do I.
Hold on. Who's in favor of 2 as it exists? I didn't propose any modification to 2.
Well, for this intersection, I like the combination. But for the
Remember, 2 has the narrowing
For the other street.
with the pillars.
right, I mean.
7 now has the curvature with the pillars. That's a modification.
Right, and for this intersection, I think the modification of 7 works, but it wouldn't,
All
not
right,
to be copied from.
I think what your suggestion is, 2 would work probably elsewhere
Right.
with pillars.
Right.
But let me look, I mean, if we buy into this 7, I mean, 2 would be a natural for the other roads. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So, who's in favor of 2 for the solution to El Caney? Betty, you are?
Just me.
Okay. Who's in favor of 7?
With the modification.
With modification.
With modifications.
Why do you need the pillars?
Yeah.
I don't get
For the signs.
Because it's there.
Well, it doesn't have to be pillars. It-
So
it-
much
It,
there.
it could be any type of monumentation.
Flowers.
It-
Yeah.
Boulders.
Rock wall.
It could be, you know, a
Yeah,
big boulder.
let's stick with the pillars right now,
Yeah.
for the
Oh,
test.
you know what I wanted to say,
For the test.
because there's so many people, and I see this every morning when I'm walking dogs, like at 7 o'clock, walking a dog. The 4-way stop signs.
That's you.
The
The other
people
person.
that come through there, most of the cars that I see, if they know where the cars are around, they slow down, but they never stop. And so the stop sign is more of a yield sign. I stop because I'm sure that there's a policeman
Okay.
just watching me. So I stop. But anyway, I think also the pillars is another deterrent, or something like that.
It's clear.
You know, it'll mean, oh, there's one other thing I need to focus on right here.
Okay, now, so we all have voted. Do you want to change your vote, Regina?
I just want to say something.
Go
If you
ahead.
have just 7 and you have, even 6 inches of snow, the plows are gonna go straight automatically, and it's gonna ruin it. So you need something to have signage so they know that the road curves.
Good
and
point.
that's a good
point.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
if
so-
there's no pillars, you
so-
have barrels, you're gonna hold
We're-
2 signs.
Well, we're all, except for Betty, in favor.
Poor Betty.
Sorry, it's a change in the vote.
No, can I just complicate things?
No.
Was this said, because part of the traffic, like where we live on Elm, is lost people. If people, like what's gonna happen on the other side of El Caney? Because if you've got people coming that are trying to get to Antietam to get to baseball and it whips them that way, are we gonna end up with more lost people circling? Like, or is there gonna have to be some kind of modification to make sure people know where?
Yeah, but remember, we've agreed.
The test one.
We've agreed to use this as a test case,
Okay,
right?
so we'll find out.
So,
We're not solving all the problems today.
And
Yeah,
that-
I know, I'm trying to make sure, like, it's not gonna create more problems.
And that type of
No,
problem
we're gonna
is,
solve one problem.
that type of problem is better solved with
Others
better
need to be solved.
wayfinding and signage
Yeah.
on the
That's-
streets,
that's-
as opposed to
exactly.
trying to rearrange geometry of interior streets. That's sort of like
okay.
killing a fly with a cannon.
Laura, you had a comment?
Well, that was my question, is Mass Development interested to, investigate what is better signage in that area?
Yeah, that's part of this too.
Right, and
It's
is,
clearly your responsibility.
right, and is Mass Development kind of interested in the bigger picture of the private roads? Or is Mass Development interest just in El Caney, because that's
No,
a
no.
different story?
I think this
Wasn't
is
sure.
our number one priority because it's
Yeah.
adjacent to the new Grant Road neighborhood where
Yeah.
we are gonna see an uptick in
Right.
pass-by traffic, and we wanna make sure it doesn't get on the alley. We'll see, we'll see if we get, we'll see how it goes, I think, is the answer. If we see benefits,
Yeah.
then maybe there's something to be learned.
Well, wait a minute, Ed. We agreed in the last meeting that this would be a test case that
Right.
could be employed on all the private roads.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, that's,
But it's gonna be, but each alley exit
Yeah.
way is slightly different, so
Yeah,
we're
there
not
might be
just gonna.
modifications to the bump out versus the But we gotta wait to see how successful this is.
Yes.
Agreed. Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
The man who bought the last house that was for sale, number 69, he's gonna be here in about 2 minutes.
Oh, so
Well, leave the door open.
Well, do you have another set of paperwork for him?
You can have one.
Sure.
There you go.
Sure.
Okay, Peter, do you wanna do it?
Oh, you have actually.
We have 16 minutes of tape left, so we can go another 16 minutes. if anybody wants to fill it up.
Okay,
I think my makeup's gonna melt.
let us say thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks, Master Darwin. Now, we clearly have a way forward. Minimum cost. The question is when now?
Yeah, we'll figure that out with our DPW guys.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I think
Regina?
Will you send an email out to all the residents so that they know that we're doing this test?
Sure.
Okay.
I think there's gonna need to be legal paperwork between the homeowners, and Mass Development can't just go on your property and
Right.
do anything, so we're gonna be digging in, that'll probably be me, so.
Tom, can I bring up,
Does everybody know Brett? You know Brett?
go over this already?
Yeah.
It's in the minutes.
I saw it in there.
Did you get the minutes?
Right, Tom,
Did you get the minutes, Tom?
Can I just say one public
Sure.
service announcement while I'm here?
By the way, this is our Vice President of Support, and has worked here diligently all day to figure out how to work that machine.
So now, I'm gonna make a plea, since I'm the only one that knows how to run this machine, and I'm not always gonna be available. So if anybody else wants to learn how to do this, which will take about 45 minutes of practice and going through this with some prompts, and then you can become a licensed Devens
Media specialist?
committee media specialist also. Or if you know of somebody, we need somebody else. And I'm not always gonna modify my schedule to do this. So, somebody step up. Somebody's step up, please.
The qualifications are, if you can hear thunder and see lightning.
No, you just have to be breathing.
Okay. Does everybody know John, by the way, from the Harvard News? I don't think, John comes to our meetings pretty faithfully. We'd like to have you here. Thank you very much. They got a great website, by the way. And it's a good newspaper. We all get it. Okay? Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Well done. Make a motion.
Can we make a motion?
No, this is not a. No.
Me again.
Well, you might do it once a year.
Down the adjournment.
Oh, probably.
I already approved one.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get some paperwork for him? Did you get some paperwork? Did you get it?
Now I gotta shut it down.